The Fever Dream of the Maltese Falcon, a Taipei Noir, year 2080. Episode 4. It was way too hot for a spring evening, the temperature having risen 20 degrees over a few hours. In 2080, the climate crisis wasn't even called a crisis anymore. Everyone just called it abuse by the weather. Not fun to be out and about. Even Lummix was glad to be going indoors to her office. Busy day, Lummix, Xiaohua's pert voice came through from her terminal. Lummix grunted as she slipped into her chair and examined the message logs. Bills, bills, and more bills. Ignore those, said Xiaohua. Someone called Frenchie dropped by today. What did he or she want? He, Frenchie is a he, Caucasian, 5'11", weighs around 165 jin, sloppy dresser. Sloppy how? Lummix trusted Xiaohua's judgment about clothes. Hawaiian shirt, shorts, floppy hat. Sloppy, in the way unqualified English teachers used to look back in the day, when you could get a job teaching English here, just because you were white. Lummix raised an ironic eyebrow. All right, miss, what else? Xiaohua examined Lummix. You know you're getting that permanently tired look, Lummix. Maybe you should go in for Botox 12 treatment before it's too late. Lummix snorted irritably. What did this Mr. Frenchie want? He said he'll only tell you, and not some virtual assistant who needed a software upgrade, Xiaohua informed Lummix sweetly. Something about my hairstyle being old-fashioned. A sloppy dresser and a mansplainer. Lovely, said Lummix, leaning back. The front door buzzed. Here he is right now, said Xiaohua, and buzzed him in. Frenchie ambled in, his red face sweating. He flopped down on the client chair and took out a little towel and wiped his face. I gather you're the detective lady, said Frenchie. Yeah, I am pleased to meet you too, said Lummix. So have they found the guy who killed Luther? Asked Frenchie, a little too casually. You know Luther? Asked Lummix, looking for any tells. And sure enough, there was the merest little flicker in Frenchie's beady eyes. He definitely knew Luther. Nah, I don't know the guy. I just saw it in the Newstron. Since you were in the neighborhood, thought you might know. So Frenchie was lying. And finding out why was going to be fun. Lummix leaned in. So what can I do for you? Frenchie settled in. I've got a job for you. I need you to find some lost merchandise. A small package of medicine. It's called The Cure. It's not a dangerous job, just annoying. The rightful owner is prepared to pay you $50,000. Lummix, poker-faced, nodded encouragement. In cash, continued Frenchie. That's a lot of money for some lost merchandise, said Lummix. Let's just say no questions asked, said Frenchie, giving Lummix a wink and laughing at his not very funny joke. Xiaohua's terminal buzzed. It was time for her to sign off. Lummix turned to her screen. All right, Xiaohua, see you tomorrow. Make sure the locking codes are in place at the door, Lummix said and closed down the screen. She looked up to see that Frenchie had a gun pointed at her. Sorry, ma'am. I'd like to search your office for a package. Lummix put her hands up. Step into the middle of the room, please. I've got to pat you down. Don't intend to sexually harass you, but need to make sure you're not armed. Frenchie laughed, and he bent down to check her ankles. Lummix jerked her foot back and kicked his face. He fell back, startled. He wasn't expecting Lummix to be as strong as she was. Frenchie held his face, and she whipped around, took his gun, and struck him with its butt. Frenchie staggered and fell, passing out, a look of surprise on his face. While he was out cold, she went through his pockets methodically. A couple of cards. She grabbed a reader and scanned them. Detective rule number 3, scan everything to the cloud. He was a subject of the North American Colonial Federation and also of several European village states and the greater Tsardom of Russia. There was some money, imperial notes, a holobiometric card with his credits that meant he had been traveling in the imperial states of Asia Pacific and had been to the Chinese metropole. World traveler, this one. She sat in her chair, which promptly put its arms out and started massaging her calves. She was careful not to make a sound, didn't want the chair to start talking. She watched as Frenchie came to. "Ow, what did you do that for?" he groaned, his tone aggravated. "I can't have you sticking me up in my own office now, can I?" He sat up holding his head. "Did you have to hit so hard? That was not cool," he whined. What's uncool is being made to look like an idiot for believing that the offer of $50,000 is for real. You don't have that kind of money in cash or in credits. Frenchie massaged his forehead. "Nah, the offer's still good, but I'd be a sucker if I didn't try to save its rightful owner the dough." "So, do you have the medicine vial?" "No, I don't. Why did you think I'd have it?" "I can't tell you that. If you can't tell me, then how am I supposed to find it if you don't tell me everything?" "All in good time, ma'am." "But you want me to get it for you?" "Yes, and I'm willing to pay you a retainer of 2,000 credits for it." "No credits, strictly cash." "Okay, cash then." "And 20,000. Frenchie took out his wallet and handed over 20,000 in imperial notes. Lummix counted it and put it away. "Now then, who had it last?" she asked. "Apparently Luther had it," said Frenchie. "Ah, so you know Luther." "Just barely. He was just a courier. I didn't know him as in we didn't go bowling or anything like that," protested Frenchie. "So whoever killed Luther probably has the package, if Luther had it with him," reasoned Lummix. "Yes, ma'am," said Frenchie. "If you can track it down, my associate will gladly pay your fee. And now I should make my way." As Frenchie turned to go, he asked, "Can I get my gun back?" Lummix laughed. She took the bullets out and tossed the gun to him. After Frenchie lumbered out, Lummix locked the door to her office and headed to the kid's penthouse. As she made her way through the darkened, narrow streets, she considered the events that had happened so far. The kid had directed her to Luther, who had turned up dead, and she was now a suspect according to Chung Ho. Then Mei-ling was a fake, so the chase after Luther was obviously a setup. And now there was Frenchie, who said that Luther was a courier. That was a lot of people walking through her office in this grimy part of Wanhua. The question was why? Lummix knew a racket when she saw it, but it wasn't clear what the racket was and what any of these characters were hoping to get out of it. But what was clear is that the kid probably knew more than he was letting on. Ah, yes, the kid. No, she wasn't going to think about little Charlie, but those sad eyes the kid had were too much like her baby brother's. It's like little Charlie had been reincarnated. God knows she had lit enough incense sticks at the temple, praying that he would come back to her and Mother, so that her mother could stop wasting away from the grief. Lummix sighed. She'd had to grow up too soon. Not that she minded being the head of household at 12. After all, it had taught her valuable life lessons about the intricacies of surviving in an adult world while still a child and having to be responsible for the only grown-up in her life. Those skills proved valuable to a police detective. Oh, okay, an ex-police detective. The sound of chanting and the smell of incense reached her. She was passing by the oldest temple in Taipei, the Longshan Temple. On an impulse, she went in. Perhaps it was a good time to check in with the gods and pray for peace for her long-dead baby brother and mother. She purchased some incense sticks at the temple store and made her way to the central shrine. She stood there with the other worshippers, each one of them in their own world, a tight little bubble of private communication with the gods. She moved her incense sticks in prayer and kept an eye out. Other than taking care of your soul and your ancestors' souls, the temple was a good place to gather intel. Everything went through there at one point or another. The back of her neck bristled. She became aware that one of the worshippers was moving his incense sticks in prayer, but his mind wasn't on it. He seemed to be looking at her. Not at her directly, but at her shoes. She finished and bowed to the gods, taking in his legs and feet. Nondescript, she went around the temple and stopped, approximately at the god of war shrine. Sure enough, the feet followed. When she turned around to take a look, he was bowing at the god of scholarly tests. He was a skinny young fellow with a hard face. Definitely not a student. She doubted he had cleared high school. She completed her circuit of the shrines and went over to the market around the temple to get a nano-fortified aloe and sugarcane juice. She bent down to tie a shoelace, and there he was, not too far away. She went ahead and bargained for some cheap tights and paused to powder her nose. Sure enough, there he was. He wasn't looking at her, but his ears had that alert look, that slight tensing of the lobe. Time to lose this hard-faced little runt. She went to Auntie Lou's Dumpling Palace, a fine establishment as far as the dumplings went, but a tawdry affair otherwise. Grimy walls, unpretentious plastic furniture, and fading portraits from the last century. But the dumplings were mighty fine. The grumpy-faced Auntie Lou emerged from behind a cloud of steam and said, "The usual plate of pot stickers, Lummix?" "Yes, Auntie, and I hope you got that extra hot pepper I like." Hot pepper meant that she needed to give someone the slip and was going to go out the back. Auntie Lou kept her poker face. She had a very good poker face because she never let up on her habitual scowl. The only acknowledgement was the smallest twinkle in the eye. Lummix got herself a pair of chopsticks and a bowl of soy sauce from the condiment station, checked that the little runt was following her in the reflection of the shop window. He was right there. She set things down at her table and went to the wall that had the toilet sign, entered the short corridor, and opened the door to the kitchen. She went past the cooks and waitresses who didn't give her a second look, then slipped out the back into the narrow alley behind Auntie Lou's. Went around the block. Her shadow was right there in front of Auntie Lou's. Lummix chuckled to herself and made her way to the kid's apartment. She found the kid pacing up and down. "Are you nervous about something, kid?" "No, just worried about my sister." "Yeah, about that. I have some information." And Lummix sat down heavily on a comfortable stuffed chair. The kid rushed to her side and knelt down. "What?" he said eagerly. "Shove that ottoman over. I need to rest my knees," said Lummix. The kid eagerly fetched the stuffed ottoman. Lummix kicked off her shoes and sighed. "What news of my sister?" Lummix looked into the kid's anxious face and his troubled eyes, and she burst out laughing. "You're good, kid." "What do you mean?" the kid said with an injured look. "If I didn't know your sister was a deep fake, I would have believed that you were a good little brother and worried sick about your sister." Lummix stopped laughing and wiped her eyes. "How do you do it?" she continued. "It must be that way you widen your eyes when you talk, and that nervous twitch, and that vocal fry and upswing." "I deserve that," the kid sighed, "but you don't have to give me a class in sociolinguistics, you know." Lummix was amused. "But believe me when I say I am in danger, and you are the only one who can help me." The kid was in earnest now. "How so, kid?" "I'm way in over my head. I may come from the upside, but my life hasn't been easy. I live with permajuviosis, and that changes everything." Lummix wasn't completely surprised at the revelation. Permajuviosis was a consequence of the genetic therapies they gave pregnant women 30 years ago. It was a rare condition, but there were a few cases left in the world of infants who had managed to survive childhood. Lummix calculated that even though the kid looked 10, he was probably in his 30s. I've learned to use my condition to live my life. Please don't tell anyone if you don't have to. Lummix nodded her assent. She wasn't in the business of making life difficult for the already unfortunate. I've run with a rough crowd, and it's catching up with me. But believe me, I haven't done anything wrong. I need your help. I am trying my damnedest best to live like a decent human being, and you're my last chance. I'll help you, kid, but you must not hide things from me. Are we clear? Said Lummix. Yes, Miss Lummix, I promise. Okay, so tell me about Frenchie. Frenchie, the kid turned a shade pale. He's here? Long lost friend day, said Lummix. It looks like we need to set up a meeting. Subscribe to Type A Noir on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcast. And please share with friends. Type A Noir is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Non-Derivatives 4.0 International License, which means share it with your friends, but don't use it in your own work and don't sell it. See you on the downside.